to the Strong Life Coach podcast, where we speak life, coach life, write life, and lead life. Today, I'm joined by special guest, longtime friend. We're almost a decade and a half knowing you, my brother.
It's been a long time.
Tomas Martinez, welcome to the show.
Thank you, man. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah.
Love this setup, man. This is very nice, brother. You did it right.
I'll tell you what. There's few people in my circle who every single time I connect with and speak to, where I might be at a 7, you pick me up to a 9. I might be at an 8, you pick me up to a 10. I might be at a 10 and somehow you like push me higher than I was before, just from an energy perspective, an encouragement. I have no doubt that you believe in me every single time. But not only that, for my energy, you give me great content to go to. So I can't be around you without getting a great quote, a great somebody to read, or a lesson to hear. But again, I don't think there's been an exception. Every single time I'm with you, you're somebody who just gives me great content. So thank you so much for your investment in me over the years. I think you've been opening up doors for me for the last 15 years. I remember Antonio Daniels basketball camp. You got me on over there as well.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
we had a good time.
So I want people to know who are tuning in to know who you are. So I want to go through your bio real quick.
Okay.
You graduated with your bachelor's degree from UTSA in Interdisciplinary Studies.
That's right. I was a teacher.
Come on. And then you went into you got your master's degree from Texas A&M with education administration with the vision of being a principal.
That's right. So
then you spent 11 years teaching, and then you're the owner of Luxury Home Magazine in San Antonio and Austin.
That's right.
And you are also a John Maxwell Speaker, coach, trainer, and teacher. As well, you have Mindset Monday. You put out content at TMIII Impact.com.
Yep.
So if you're listening in, tune in to him and hear what he has to say. Tomas, you have some great content out there. And I want us to go back 15 years. I mentioned Antonio Daniels basketball camp.
Yeah.
And I remember you helped me to get hired there.
Yep.
So I was one of the coaches or trainers or whatever it was at that point in time. Yeah. But I remember a conversation we had, because after the basketball camp, they would have runs, or they would have pickup games.
Yeah.
And you told me, you're like, look, I know you've done a little basketball in high school, and you might have been somewhat, successful at your school.
Right.
But you were telling me this is not this college level. This is a couple of tiers up. So do you remember that conversation?
I remember you coming, and I do slightly remember that conversation, but I do know the context for sure.
Right.
Yes.
Now, and what's funny, I seen it there. I don't even think I got a shot up, playing with those guys. Those guys were playing pro overseas. Of course, Antonio Daniels was in the league.
Yeah.
But
and I think what was it? Devin Brown? Didn't Devin Brown play that year? Was he there that year? Because Devin Brown had come through. A bunch of the UT basketball players came through. Mm-hmm. Like this was a whole different level.
Yes.
Whole different level.
Right. Now, I wanted to ask you that about how you've seen these different levels also, though, in the corporate world, in business, and how you've navigated that world. For me, I don't know. From a basketball standpoint, you could be insecure or worried, like, man, these are at the next level. I don't belong on the same court. But how you navigated these tiers of success that are also in business?
Great question. I think, for me, I think that when I first started my business, there was this need to constantly be talking. Mm-hmm. Right? Like almost like I had to be in the room and be heard so that people knew, number one, who I was, and that I had something to say. Mm-hmm. And then as I started to watch those above me, as I started to sit in rooms with people way above me, I started realizing that, typically the smartest person in the room is not the one talking.
Wow.
They're listening.
Come on. I like that quote. Take that quote, y'all. You're listening in. The smartest one in the room is not talking.
They're typically not talking. And not only are they not talking, they're figuring out every single person in the room. And they can pretty much kind of spot, okay, who is the imposter, right? Who's just trying to, show that they have something of value, to give. Mm-hmm. And so what I started realizing is that, and this is over, this is having my business for a few years. I mean, I think I was 4 or 5 years in before I really realized that, Tomas, you need to listen. You're gonna have to walk into the room and just listen, ask questions, and hear what's going on. And I knew that that's what the people above me were doing.
Wow. Now,
they were listening.
And the powerful thing about it is you have the gift of communication. So you're wired with this gift, but to be able to say there's a time for me to use this gift and there's a time not to.
Yeah.
And
I'll give you a perfect example, right?
Go ahead.
So the perfect example is you are in a meeting, and I've shared this, where, someone mentions, oh, I was a teacher, while they're talking to you. And my nature would be to stop them dead in the conversation, go, I was a teacher too. I taught for 11 years. And then I literally just hijacked the entire story. And now it's all about me.
Wow.
And over time, I started to realize that I had to harness that, hey, what is the relatability? I had to harness it,
right?
Let them speak, ask them more questions. And then later on, I call it, where you circle back. When they're done and you can feel like they're done, they're like, what about you? And you say, you know what? I was a teacher too. And it changed when I started realizing that. It changed the whole dynamic of how I network, how I meet with people, how I discuss, how I, in a group, how I'll get everybody. My wife always laughs. I'll get everybody to kind of pitch into the conversation. Nice. As opposed to allowing, I'll say, hey, well, what do you think about that? Or what do you think about that? So yeah, the smartest people in the room listen.
Yes.
And they engage others.
And how do you prevent from being envious of others' success? And then also, how do you prevent from even some of the insecurity that can come from being in the room with these super successful people?
Well, I love the idea of, and I can't remember exactly who said it, but it's the idea of don't judge your beginning with someone's middle. Okay?
Yes.
Right? Like in the middle of surgery, it looks like a murder.
There we go.
Okay, like that's a little graphic,
graphic.
But literally, like, right? Think about it. So if I'm at my beginning, why in the world would I want to judge my beginning to his middle? Right. And most of the people that are ahead of you, they may not even be in the middle. They may be at the 75 or the 10-yard line about to go into the end zone, or they're about to wrap it up and just kind of just go to the next phase, maybe retire or do whatever they want to do next. So to me, I always think like, look, and this was difficult because in the beginning, you're constantly measuring.
Oh yes,
it's because you're starting. You're like, well, I gotta measure up. I gotta measure up. I gotta measure up. But over time, I sort of realized, my measure of success cannot be someone's middle or someone's end.
Sure.
I have to base my success based on where I'm at, and am I getting better?
Yes. Am I getting better?
Am I getting better?
Huge. And when you and I spoke probably 2 weeks ago, or maybe 3 weeks ago, you said something on the phone to me, and you were talking about, you asked me how it's going. I was like, well, in some ways it's going really good. Sometimes it's not going good. And I was sharing, I was like, like 22 YouTube subscribers, nothing to brag about,
right.
And then you challenged my thinking and you said, realize the power of one.
Yeah.
And just, and you mentioned even some of the, one of the guys that you and I both look up to, John Maxwell, and him hitting his stride really in his 50s.
Yep.
So there's a potential that not to get caught up with, well, John Maxwell's speeches get millions and millions of follows, and he has millions and millions of subscribers and everything he's doing, but to not make that comparison, but to be okay with the growth and continuing to go in my own journey.
Yeah, because you're judging your beginning on John Maxwell's middle, and his middle is just ridiculous.
Right.
I mean, John Maxwell, the scope of his influence, right? So you got to step back, and you just gotta you judge based on your level of success. Needs to come from where are you at, and are you improving daily?
Yes, I love that.
Yep.
I love that measure of success. And it reminds me of, like, I think it was a couple of months ago, LeBron James' son, Bronny James, just got on social media. So he just grabbed like 1 million followers immediately. And I'm like, his beginning is like, again, 100,000 times bigger than my beginning.
Right.
But to your point of my success is, am I growing daily?
Are you growing?
That's something that's in my control. I can determine what happens with my own growth.
Yep.
I can't determine who follows me and who's not. And hopefully if I create content that's great enough, then it gets the people's attention that I need. But you even said this, if you have one person tuning in, that's what it's about.
Yeah. Gary V, 1 is greater than 0. Gary V had terrible views on his Wine Library TV when he started. I mean, those videos, if you go back and look at them, they were terrible. I mean, just bad videos in terms of quality, what we would consider today, but that was the technology at the time. They weren't great, but he was doing authentic content.
Wow.
So 1 is greater than 0.
Yes.
Yep.
Another quote I'm taking away from this one.
Yeah, Gary V said that, not me.
So let's talk about your leadership journey.
Okay.
So when did you first see yourself as a leader?
When did I first see myself as a leader? Well, I think there are phases, right? I think there are phases when you realize your influence, and I think if I were to ask that after John Maxwell going to IMC, which is the training for John Maxwell coaches, after I went to that, I realized that my leadership journey had begun a long time ago.
Yes.
Right? Now, before I went to IMC, I thought that my leadership had to be where basically it was because you had a title or you're a business owner or you were put into this promontory position because other people now are looking up to you because of what you've done. And after John Maxwell, I realized it's like leadership is influence.
Yes.
So nothing more, nothing less. It's just, do you have influence over people? So then I started going back and I'm like, well, man, there were leadership capabilities in me when I was in kindergarten.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like when I got to 5th grade and we had the contest to see who could walk on their hands the longest. And just that, walking on my hands, we would walk the length of the gym and we'd walk back. Wow. And that became like, everybody wanted to learn how to walk on their hands. We had a group of kids that all could do it, and then more kids would try to do it. So we were influencing people to do new things and push themselves. And so, so I think John Maxwell helped me solidify really what is influence. So I think as parents, if you look at your little ones, if you have little ones, you're going to already start to see signs where they're influencing you. They're influencing, the way you maybe discipline or parent sometimes in the ideas that they have. And so I think knowing what influence is now, that started at a young age.
Yes. And it reminds me of what influence is. A lot of people want influence. They want to be more influential, or even they want to grow as a leader, and then pinpointing the influential people around them and beginning to ask, what is it that's happening? Like you said, with this child that's influencing their parent, like what's happening that makes me influenced by this child? Or even, you and I both believe in helping organizations and businesses, and how do you help their leaders to become better or more influential? But sometimes right in those organizations are already incredibly influential people that never even have the role, to your point, where it might be the guy that organizes the happy hour after work. That person is influencing 5 professionals or however many people that go with them to go have the drink. But what is it that would make somebody say yes to them? And it captures like influence, leadership, and all of that.
Well, people don't think they can lead up. They don't think that wherever they're at, that they have influence to go upward with that influence, to influence people above them. Right. And I tell people all the time, if you're working at a company and you feel like you need a title to be a leader, then you obviously don't understand leadership. Oof. You don't know. You don't understand it.
That's right.
Because the manager doesn't always. They're not always the best leader. And you think about I can go back to a lot of jobs that I've had. The manager wasn't the best leader. There was typically somebody on that team that was a way better leader. It's just that the manager got the opportunity. So you can lead no matter where you're at in an organization. That's that 360-degree leader, right? That John talks about in his book. And so you just have to step into it knowing that I have influence and I have a way that I can influence the people around me. And that influence can go up, it can go down, it could go horizontal.
Yes.
It could cross all boundaries if you're willing to do what you need to do and not just do the bare minimum, but you got to go above and beyond.
Yes.
Which, a lot of people sometimes miss out on that opportunity.
And I think sometimes like you kind of accidentally influence it, you don't even realize it. I know in my own journey, I think about service, right? And one of the people that inspired me, and I was asking her, I noticed she was influential, and I'm asking her, hey, what helped you? What helped you in this journey? And she was talking about, I fill up people's water bottles. Like that's it. Like they could do that themselves, And she's going, no, like it's one way that I, as a leader, serve, and all of a sudden we have greater influence.
Yeah.
And I'm just going, what? Like just serving, and even a way that they're physically able to do for themselves, but to be able to go back to that and just find ways to serve. And that's something that kind of stuck with me, which is whatever situation I'm in, or people are above me or who are more successful or who are at my level or who are coming up, can I find a way to serve them?
Serve. Yep. Absolutely. 100%.
So for you, as the owner of luxury home magazine San Antonio and Austin, what would you say is the most rewarding part of being the owner?
The owner? Obviously there's some freedom with that, right? There's a little bit of freedom. The people are kind of mesmerized with the entrepreneur word, right? I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to own my own business. I never really thought of myself as an entrepreneur until I'd say probably the second or third year of starting the business. And I never really identify with that word. And then the more I started thinking about it, I was like, okay, I can kind of identify that. But I think and going back to your question, the question is, what do you think is the biggest reward? I think the biggest reward is knowing that I have people that work for me, that work on my team, that I can help them accomplish with this job, right? With this opportunity to accomplish their own personal journey with what they want to do.
Yes.
So they're working for Luxury Home Magazine, but really what they're doing is I'm providing them an opportunity, a job, to give back to their family, their community. And so the reward is just knowing that I have the ability to write that paycheck. I have the ability to sign that and know that, man, I'm helping them take care of this, or I'm helping them take care of that. I'm helping them pay for that trip. I mean, that's very rewarding. And I never thought I'd have employees.
Sure.
Yeah, right. I never thought I'd have people that worked for me, and so being able to do that is pretty cool.
Yes, I love that. I love hearing that, and it's something that again, that's something I'm aspiring to regarding like what would that be like? Right now this is the early journeys. This is it's not a one-man show because there's so many people that are investing in and helping out. But as far as who's on the Strong Life Coach payroll, it's one. Well, actually, I guess two guys if you count this past weekend, with the producer. But the value of that, I'm looking forward to that part of the journey. Yeah. But I could see how it's valuable and it's precious to be able to support other people in their livelihood, and then seeing them to be able to achieve or accomplish, or even if it's trips and things like that, to see more of the world, because
see them buy a house, to see what one of my employees when he bought his house, it's really neat to be a part of that.
So who would you say has been the biggest influence on your leadership journey?
My leadership journey, it's interesting because I for a long time I looked at that as almost like a 5-year window, right? Like, okay, who are the top 5, or in this 5-year window, who are the biggest? But then I got to go back and go, okay, 5-year window is not really fair, because I've had people pouring into me. I'll be 44 in September, and so I've had people pouring into me for many, many years. But I go back to a couple examples. Number one, I'll start with my mom. Okay,
yes.
So when I was about to graduate, I wanted to go to ITT Technical School, and this is nothing against ITT Technical School, but I thought I was an artist. I like to draw. I thought this would be great. I could get in there, get out, and do computer animated drafting, right, and CAD or whatever. Learn that system. And I remember the gentleman coming to my house and playing a video and looking at my drawings with my mom, and my mom just sat there with her arms crossed, and the gentleman was like, ma'am, do you have any questions? And she said, no, my son's going to college. And really that was that statement right there in a moment completely shaped my future in that one statement.
Wow.
my son is going to college, because I had no desire, because I thought I was going to get a scholarship to play basketball, and I didn't. And so once that window closed in my mind, college closed, because I just thought, well, I don't know how to pay for that, right?
Sure.
But my mom was like, no, my son's going to college. And so in that one statement really began the entire, well, it didn't begin it, but it was a catalyst that kind of put me on this trajectory. And then, of course, my dad, seeing my dad graduate from college when I was 22 years old, I saw my dad walk across the stage.
Nice.
My dad was somewhere around 40. He was in his 40s. And that was another, so here I am in college and I'm watching my dad graduate from college. It was another pivotal moment, and just thinking, okay, like, I can finish. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And so that shaped my leadership journey, seeing that. And then moving forward, I've had so many different, people one by one that have just poured nuggets into me, poured ideas. I'll never forget one of my best friends, Wesley. Wesley told me something 7 years ago, and I thought it was the dumbest thing I'd ever heard, right? Wesley told me success is a journey. And I was like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard, Wes. And I remember looking at him, and I think I was on the phone with him, and I just remember he's like, no, it's a journey. It's not a destination. You see, in my mind, when I started my business, I had this idea that success was a destination. It was when I get here.
Sure.
Successful. When I did this, successful, right? And I had like these little flags marked out, like my dream car or a dream trip or what have you. Sure. And Wesley's like, look, dude, success is just a journey. You're on this journey, and your success journey keeps going. Even when you hit that dream car, it doesn't stop. So it's a journey. It's continuing. That shaped my leadership. That shaped my mentality of what, just being a leader and what being successful was. And so there's just been so many things. And then I think in the grand scheme of everything, I think I look back to Brad Taylor. Brad Taylor is the owner of the franchise Luxury Home Magazine. And Brad, like literally when I started my company, I called Brad and Emil. He was a vice president. I called those two guys every single day for probably 2 years while I was building my business. Because remember, when you don't have all the answers, you need somebody to call. You need someone to pick up the phone and talk to. And I had mentors and people pouring in my life. So that's part of my leadership journey, is having those people that were pouring into me. So the leader I am today is a culmination. It goes back to a quote, no one succeeds alone. That's right. I just had that on my Instagram, right? And so that whole idea is, everybody's been pouring into me to make me the leader that I am today.
Yes. What I love about your description, I love a lot of things about your description, but one of them is you talk about what your mom and Wesley did. Yeah. And you bring up these quotes or things that they said in those moments. Or your mom was about vision, right?
No, big time.
Vision for you. It's a bigger vision than ITT Tech. Yeah. Then Wesley was about how you saw success and almost challenging that. But then you have your dad, where that angle of the story is about his example. Yep. And then so you get like these influences in your life that are all around us. Yep. People that are going to give us these great nuggets and truths, people that are going to give us this vision, people that are going to be an example to us. And we just have to be ready and receptive to the people and the influence around us. And I really appreciate how you said there's so many people that contributed to your success. I mean, it's hard. Even I asked the question, who, seemingly asking for one, but really it's a challenging just to limit to one person, because so many people are around us and have invested in us. Yeah.
I mean, that could just be the one book, right? That you write. Is like, who are all the people that poured into you?
Yes.
Could be a lot of people.
Right. And even, you could even categorize it, right? Like, who poured into my marriage? Who poured into me while I was in college? Yes. Who poured into me while I was a teenager, right? So you were somebody poured into me since I was like 17. You would get guys together and play basketball with us, and you have these different, tiers or different categories of people that influence us, which is incredible. I mean, I know you've been blessed tremendously because of people pouring into you.
Oh, big time.
And I feel it as well. Like, man, like, who am I to get all of these people just to believe in me and to pour in?
Yep. Yep. It's powerful.
For you, what was a unique challenge you faced and had to overcome in your leadership journey?
Well, one of the things in a leadership journey is that when you start a business, there is this natural tendency to think that you have to be the one to do everything. There's a natural tendency to go like, if I don't do it, it doesn't get done. And so I had this tendency when I first started with the business to think that I needed to do it all. Mm-hmm. And I heard people tell me, well, you need to delegate, leaders delegate. And so the challenge for me is letting things go that I didn't really need to touch, letting things go that really were not going to be massive pieces to the success of everything that we were doing. Mm-hmm. And so I had to realize that, I had to hire someone to help me sell. And that was like one of the hardest things. I remember I was sitting in across from the W Hotel in Austin. Mm-hmm. I was going back and forth between San Antonio and Austin selling the magazine. And Christina was in the car with me and I just broke down. And I just told her, I said, I can't do this anymore. We were this 2014, 15, because we started in 13. So it was in that time frame where I was just like, I'm wore out. Like I don't know how to continue. Mm-hmm. And she looked at me with only the love that a wife could look at you and be like, I told you to hire somebody. You know what I mean? Like the answer. You just do cheap. You don't want to do it. Mm-hmm. And she was right. I mean, my wife, I mean, the amount of wisdom, and that's another person that, golly, like the leader that I am today, if I don't mention her, think about this. Without my wife, I don't go to John Maxwell.
Wow.
Think about that, right? I don't even understand what a true leader is, that a leader is influence. I don't go there. Without my wife, we don't start Luxury Home Magazine. Luxury Home Magazine doesn't exist. Without my wife, you and me aren't even on this podcast.
Wow.
And you might not even know about John Maxwell's coaching.
That's right, because you were the person I went to and I said, hey,
that's what I'm saying.
You're the only person I know.
Yes.
That's John Maxwell certified. Tell me what you have.
So that is a big part to this whole leadership thing, right? Mm-hmm. Is that she influenced all of that. Yes. And so, her influence in that moment was so massive because right there in that moment, she spoke that listen, you can't do it all. Mm-hmm. And you weren't meant to do it all.
Yes.
So as a leader, that was probably one of the biggest challenges that I faced, is that I had to delegate and I had to entrust with people to do things. Mm. And that's not easy.
Yes. And I relate. I mean, I've asked myself about the audio, the video, and truthfully, one of the guys that came by and we were talking about doing some video work and it just, I felt myself hesitating, like, and he has more gifts. I'm not a video editor, and it's part of it is like knowing our gifts, yep. Right? What am I great in and what am I not?
Yep.
Nobody's ever asked me to sing at their wedding.
Yeah.
Nobody's ever asked me to do a fancy dance in front of
Yep.
Nobody's ever asked me to do a handstand and walk across the gym.
Right.
There's a lot of areas that nobody's asked me to do because I have no talent. Yeah. And there's no ability. Nobody pays for mediocrity, right?
Yeah.
But what I do and what you do, right, from a communication standpoint is a gift. And then being able to find ways to delegate is such a huge area. But I could see how even for me, it's like, I like having my hand in it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, you think if I touch it, it's going to be better. And the reality is that's our own ego.
Yes.
That's our own, pride that's stepping in to want to touch everything when there's just more valuable things you could be doing with your time.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Let me ask you about your transition.
Okay.
The transition from this journey. So you had your bachelor's degree, your master's degree, this vision of being a principal, mm-hmm. and then you have 11 years as a teacher, mm-hmm. and then making the decision to transition to Luxury Home Magazine. What happened there? What brought that about?
I wasn't supposed to start the magazine. Christina was going to start the magazine. Okay. And so the transition point came when I had my contract with the company that I was working with. We were negotiating, and within the negotiation, I realized that it probably wasn't going to work. I wasn't going to be able to continue with that company. Love the company. I just played golf with the owner of the company just this weekend. Both of them are friends and people that have poured into me, you know? They believed in me when, I mean, goodness, I was teaching teachers at the age of 26, traveling across the state of Texas. And that was a company that believed in me. The speaker that I am today is because of what they poured into me.
Wow.
Right? And so I think about, remind me of the question again, because I lost my track there, but
what happened in the transition?
In the transition.
Yes.
So in that transition, what happened is with that company, I realized I wasn't going to be able to do that company, right? And help my wife with Luxury Home Magazine. So there was this moment in history that's like, I remember where I was in Houston, and I called my wife and I said, listen, here's the deal. It's not going to work. I need you to get a job on Monday. Oh, that's tomorrow, because this was a Sunday night. I need you to get a job. And I need you to make X amount of money because we need to pay our bills. So you need to make X amount of money. So you need to negotiate and you need to be aggressive. And then I said, and by the way, we got to figure out childcare for our son because Enzo was like, he was little bitty, you know what I mean? And then I said, and then in the meantime, I'm going to start Luxury Home Magazine.
Wow.
Okay. I'm going to be the one that launches it and starts it. And she goes, okay. And I'll never forget it. Christina was just like, okay. That's it. She's like, okay. Next day, she had a job making exactly what we needed.
Wow.
Had a job that day. The next day, she had a job with a contract doing exactly what we needed. And that was the moment that I resigned from the company that I was at. And the transition was then, I'm now the owner and publisher of Luxury Home Magazine, which doesn't exist. I have to create it from the ground up. Because there was no magazine. There was nothing in San Antonio at that time.
Got it.
So the transition then became, I worked my face off. And I mean, they talk about grind, hustle, all of that stuff. I literally was, we would be sitting at dinner and I would have the phone and I would constantly be on my phone for 2 years, 2.5 years. I mean, everything lived and died on that phone in terms of contracts. So there was this transition of just, I literally said, this has to work. I've invested thousands and thousands of dollars. This has to work. I cannot fail.
Wow.
And so
no plan B.
We burned the ships. Like the ships have been burned. All that money is gone. Like our savings, everything's gone.
Wow.
We burned the ships. Now it's time to go. We have to make this work. And that was the vision. Like, this has to work. Period. There is no plan B. And because we had no investors, it was all our own money. We had begged, borrowed, and everything else, and figured out how to get the money to make this happen, to buy the franchise. There was this transition of this is on my shoulders, you know, for my wife and my family and my son, who's, you know, a year old.
Sure.
And so that transition was just, we're all in. And if you've ever played poker and you know about poker, when you push the chips all in, you're like, this is it. I'm all in. I don't have anything left. And that's what I did. We pushed it all in. And, you know, we've been very blessed.
Yes.
The magazine has been a massive success. And success, again, is a relative word.
Right.
People get caught up with like success is money, or success is you have this or you have that. You know, I've been blessed to learn that, you know, as my friend Wesley said, man, this is a journey. This success journey has been so amazing and such a blessing for my family that because of it, I was able to go to John Maxwell. And because of that, I was able to pour into you. And because of that, I've done these masterminds, and I've had some experience with people that literally from those masterminds, their entire world has been flipped upside down, understanding personal development and the power of it. And so this transition has been amazing, and it's made me a completely new, almost like recreated and pulled out all those things that were in there. There were seeds of greatness, as John Maxwell talks about. They were there. I just had never been in the right environment for those seeds to sprout and grow.
So, man, so many great points you're hitting on there. Environments, we could talk for quite a bit on that one alone. But I love seeing how influential you are. Again, I admire what you're doing, who you connect with. There's a lot of me that goes, hey, if I could be, you know, where Tomas is, you know, with my business, you know, then hey, I feel pretty good about me.
Yeah.
And
well, I appreciate that. But I want to tell you, like I told you in your war room, you're already ahead in so many ways. You just don't see it.
Sure.
Right? It's like, again, we judge our beginning by someone's middle.
Exactly. That's right.
And sometimes you just have to allow I call it the process. It's part of the process.
Yes, right.
You're in process. And when you're in that process, sometimes it's hard to see the result of what you're planting.
Yes.
Because some of it's still growing. Some of it's still scattered out there. So, dude, I'm telling you, man, you are a lot further ahead than you think.
Okay. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. I'm going to have to take that clip and play it over and over again.
That's right. Put that on a loop.
Right. So I want to bring it in for a landing because I want to be respectful of your time. Well, first, thank you for joining the show. You are one of the guys who will always be welcome here. So whenever you have time in your schedule, around all the successful things that you're doing, you have some time. I think people tuning in would just love to hear more about you. Of course, they could listen to you over on your podcast.
Yes.
And of course, over here, we'd love to have you over and over again.
Yeah.
To share your insight and for me to be able to showcase your experience and expertise.
Love it.
So to bring it in for a landing, favorite qualities about Christina, your wife. Favorite qualities or what's it? Quality.
Yeah.
Quality about Christina.
Yeah.
Your son Enzo.
Okay.
Mom and dad.
Okay. So Christina, unconditional. She is her love and she is 100% unconditional and will give literally anything she has to anybody at any point. She is a giver, massive giver. And the other thing is, I think the best quality is encouragement. She believed in me in so many ways that I still don't see the full vision of what she sees in me.
Wow.
Right? But she sees so much more than even I see in myself. And when you have someone like that, on your team, that is 100%, she sees so much more than I see. I remember saying this before we got married. It's like, we're gonna make a great team. That was like my pitch to like you should marry me. That was my pitch. I didn't realize she's the franchise player. Christina is the franchise. I mean, look, for everybody that has met my wife, she is the LeBron James. You don't get it twisted. My wife is franchise. I'm a supporting cast in her just believing in me because she believes in me so much. For my son, I think Enzo, the word I think of is empathy, because he just has this natural empathy, and he can see when people are hurting. Wow. He can sense when people are just, they need something. Yes. And he's had that since he was little, like little. And I remember, one of my prayers for Enzo that I would pray every night is that God would give him wisdom and understanding. And I would pray while he was sleeping, and I would rub his back. Yes. And I think that's what God has given him, is that he has this empathetic, just like, it's just there, it's powerful. And so that would be, and then he has no fear. Like he loves roller coasters. I love that quality about him. He's not scared. He wants to try new things. So I love that. For my dad, I when I think about my dad, I just think I remember, hearing his story and hearing him grow up. And I just remember him talking about, getting, his dropping out of school to joining the military and just his career as a soldier in the Army for 23 years. Wow. I just think, perseverance. I think, he's one of those people that, it's like when we play golf, he's steady Eddie. He's right down the middle. He's just, he is consistent and he's in shape. Like he'd whoop both of us. Okay. I mean, if you saw my dad, I just think consistency, consistency. Yes. And in his finances, consistency, saving and putting together, a great little nest egg for the family. I mean, I love that. Yes. For my mom, I just joy. Like my mom is a TSA agent. Shout out to all the TSA agents. If you're ever there and you see a beautiful smile and someone just, a TSA agent where you're like, you're not like the other TSA agents. That's my mom. It's just joy, happiness. And I get my energy, I think, from my mom. I get her thirst for just, being around people and enjoying the moment. I mean, that's my mom. And then the other thing is just toughness. I think my mom is really tough. She may not think that, but I know my mom is tough with everything that she's been through. So I think I get some of that toughness from her, from a quality standpoint. So yeah, it's just, they've all made me who I am. And I will say, your kids will challenge you. And that's one of the things I love about Enzo is that he will challenge us. He'll say, hey, wait a minute, you said this. And I love that because I want him to, to have his voice. You want your kids to have a voice,
that's right.
So yeah, those are the qualities.
I love hearing about your family and what you love about them.
Yeah.
Well, let's bring it in for a close.
Yeah.
I'm here with Tomas Martinez. We're at the Strong Life Coach podcast, where we speak life, coach life, write life, and lead life. Thank you for tuning in.
Appreciate the opportunity, my man. Thank you.
Yes, sir.